do nothing. But he goes on and he says, look, we need to see why we can see the opportunities, and see we need to then what? Look out for it. We're too busy looking out for number one. We're always interested in us. Matter of fact, if I were to give you, listen, if I were to give you a picture and I told you your picture is in this photograph, what you would do? You're going to look for you. You're going to look for where am I in there? Because we're always looking out for number one. We want to look and see what we are. We want to look into the we are. We want to see if everything's all right. So we'll look out for number one. And that's part of the problem. We were looking out for number one. And what does Philippians 2 say? We need to be considerate of others. It says we need to, without vain conceit and humility, we need to consider others better than ourselves. In chapter 2 of Philippians. You say, well, if I'm looking out for others, then who is going to look out for me? And I'm going to tell you, God. God is going to look out for you. You say, well, how are you going to know that God is going to look out for me? Because in that 4th chapter of Philippians, Paul tells us, and what? And God shall supply all my needs according to his riches and mercy. According to God's glory. He's saying what he will do is, if you are considerate of others, if you consider them better than yourself, he says, and, not but, he says, and God will supply all your needs. God will take care of you. If you stop looking out for number one. That's why we can't see the opportunities to be able to be a servant in the life of others, because we're too busy looking out for number one. We see the problem, but yet we just simply laugh and poke someone else. And we tell them we see what's wrong, but we choose not to act or say anything. He says what? You've got to be able to see the opportunity, and then you've got to be able to pick up that towel. There's an opportunity that presents itself, and when it does, then we've got to act on it. We've got to say, hey, it's just not about me. And then that's how we are here at the church. We open ourselves up to opportunities, and you have to do it in your life as well. That's why we have adults that are less fortunate here in the church. That's why we give them a place in which they can operate out of. That's why we have children. We give them clothes that they can wear. We feed those that are hungry. We see those opportunities, and then we act. Why? Because we understand God will supply all our needs. Because if you see the opportunity and you don't act like you're number one and you act on it, then God will each and every time supply every one of your needs. He says that's what we have to do when we have to pick up the towel. But look, he goes on and he says, look, in verse number 5, he says, well, then he decided he was going to pour this water into the basin. And then he began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with a towel in which he was girded. Then he came to Simon Peter, and he told him, Lord, do not wash my feet. And we've got to be able to serve others. When you see an opportunity, it naturally leads to the fact that you've got to be able to serve others. Now, if you're like me, if you're anything like me, you like it when people serve you. I do. Ask my wife. Sometimes we go to the nail salon every time, a little bit, and we go in there and we put our little feet up. And I kind of like that. I'm not going to lie to you. I like it. And I like it depending on who's serving me. I don't like somebody coming there with a little attitude. They got a little attitude. I don't want them on my feet now. I don't want you on my feet. Because you might clip me and I start bleeding. I don't want that. See, you get a little too close to the cuticle. So I was like, it depends. It depends. But I'm not going to lie. I like it when I have good service. There's nothing wrong with us wanting good service. But see, when we ask for someone to have a surrendered heart and a servant spirit toward us, then we need to be the same way toward others. See, we like good service, and what we even tip for good service, right? Matter of fact, you go to the restaurant, you want a good waiter. And if the waiter's not good, you don't want a tip. You're going to say something wrong with him or her. They got a problem today. You don't want that type of waiter, do you? You don't want them waiting on you. Matter of fact, I was with a friend of mine. We went to Uncle Julio's. We were there at Uncle Julio's, and they ordered a dish, and they decided to send it back. Now, they decided, hey, it's got to go back. It was something wrong, so they sent the dish back. And now when they did, the waiter came over there and gave me the attitude. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with the food? Come and wanted to pick the plates up, and the waiter was going to pick mine up. No, mine's fine. Don't take my plate. Because I knew you were going to get a little something special on yours on the way back. Don't take my plate. And I told him, I said, look, man, I wouldn't send this back if I was you. I could tell by this way that you're going to have something special come back. And he was like, no, I'm sending it back. So he did. He sent it back. Next day he called me up, man, Tim, I'm sick. I told him he was sick the next day. Why would say? I said, you got something special in your meal. And he was all sick and everything. See, but we like to be served, but you have to understand that we have to serve with, number one, humility. Let me tell you something about this text. Before they even reached there, you know what was happening between the disciples? Their argument was who was the greatest. That was their argument. They were walking, I can imagine, walking down the streets through all of that. They're trying to determine who is the greatest among them. Trying to determine who's going to be right next to Christ up in the kingdom. Who's going to be on his right side. That's what they were trying to work out. And he was telling them, look, they come in there. You've got to be able to serve with humility. And they were trying to say, look, we're going to be the greatest of all. No one's going to be any greater than us. Look at what we're going to do. And that's what the world will tell you. The world will ask you how many people report to you. How much of a salary you make. What type of home you live in. What's your social status. That's what the world will ask you. But Jesus is asking you, how low can you go? That's a song. Don't get it mixed up now. Don't get it mixed up. He wants to know how many people are you serving. See, Christ is asking from a different perspective. He wants to understand that we have to serve people. See, when you see the opportunity, then we move to service. And we serve with a servant spirit and a surrendered heart. That's how we serve people in humility. He's saying that's what we're supposed to do to people. And see, I tell you, I read an article about a gentleman who was a missionary. He had been missionary for over 25 years. 25 years. Now he thought this was a great text. He says, I've been a missionary and I've served your God for 25 years. He says, all I want is a parade when I come home. Parade. I just want the people to be out there when I fly in. He comes in on the plane, and sure enough, there were people, band, all of these things that were out there. And he was thinking, wow, this is all for me. No. It was a dignitary on the plane. Got off the plane, the dignitary, it was all for him. And everybody was cheering the dignitary and everything. The missionary gets out and he was sitting there looking out the window and he was saying, God, I don't ask for much. Not at all. I don't ask for much. But what I did was I just wanted. It was like Christ spoke to him at that time and told him, well, this is not your home. You hadn't made it home. See, it's hard when you serve with humility and you don't get that drum major. You don't get to lead the parade. Because we all have that drum major instinct that we want to be out front. We want to lead the thing. We want to receive the cheers. But what happens when you serve with humility, you may not be cheered on this side. You may not receive the celebration on this side. You may not receive the hand claps and everybody's calling your name. It may not happen on this side. But guess what? When you go to heaven and you serve with humility, guess what? You'll be the only one in the parade. When you stand before God and he says, well done, my good and faithful servant, guess what? All the angels are going to applaud you. You'll be the only one that they're calling your name. You will be the only one that received it. You and no one else. So we're going to have to be able to then serve with humility. Then he's going to tell us, look, not only be able to serve with humility, but without, listen, this is tough, without playing favorites. I mean, I was looking at the text, and I was going, this had to be tough for Christ. Imagine, look at verse 2. It says, during the supper, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot. Now, I don't want you to walk away to thinking that the devil somehow implanted into Judas Iscariot, but the idea of the text means that it was already implanted into the Satan. And so Satan then got a co-conspirator, Judas Iscariot, to go in cohorts with him to perform this task. So what he was saying was that Judas Iscariot, one of the 12 that showed up, Christ then washes his feet. Now this is the one that's going to betray him. Now think about how difficult it would be for you to wash someone that you know hates you. Would you do that? That's not natural. It's not normal. Think about how difficult it must have been for him to then sit and wash the feet of someone he knew that the next day was going to take 50 silver coins over his life. 30 coins, thank you, Rick. 30 coins over his life. That was going to take these silver coins over his life. Now, how difficult would that be? Can you do that? It's unnatural. It's unnatural for us to want to wash the feet of someone you know that dislikes you.